wonderful that we have a Thanksgiving Day, a Thanksgiving weekend, but hopefully Thanksgiving is more than just a day or a weekend. Amen. One of my favorite stories about Thanksgiving is the family who had invited over lots of family, lots of friends, and they're home in the hustle and bustle of, I think our families this week realized it takes a day and a half to prepare Thanksgiving and 20 minutes to consume it. So they had done all of this, and finally all the friends, the family are all seated ready to eat, and Mom looks at the daughter and says, "Honey, why don't you say grace? You like to say the blessing sometime." And her little daughter was kind of shy in front of the crowd. She said, "But I don't know what I'd say." And she said, "Well, just say what you hear Mommy say." Oh my God, why did I invite all these people to my house for Thanksgiving? Thanksgiving can definitely be a mixed bag. We were here this morning. I was talking to the musicians about Thanksgiving, and Dave, who plays guitar, I said, "How was your Thanksgiving?" He said, "It was interesting. The turkey thawed for 3 days, and then we opened it up, and it had weird black spots on it that we had to go find a new turkey at the last minute." It can be a mixed bag. Thanksgiving can definitely be an interesting day, but giving thanks can truly be transformative. Today we want to talk about thanksgiving, giving thanks, gratitude, and the golden key. And what is the golden key? We'll get to that. So if you think about gratitude, how many of you know that you have those moments? Mark Haverly told me this morning when he was driving in, he said, "I looked at those mountains," and he said, "I was just mush." How many of you have those moments where you take in something and it literally just overtakes you? You're literally filled with gratitude. You have those moments when there's no boundaries, no separation. You're so connected. You're in the flow. You know that heart vibration that says, "It is well, it is well, it is well." How many of you have those moments? And hopefully those days, maybe it's a part of how you are at the foundation of your being. And then let's get real. How many of us have those moments and those days where all you can see is the problem? The drama, the crisis, what's wrong? And not only do you have those days where it's like, not only is that all I see, but my mind just is relentless, just at it, trying to figure it out. Anybody else's mind that happens sometime where it's just like it just keeps circling around and around and around? Does it even wake you up at night sometime? You wake up and then the mind is thinking about a problem, a situation, what's not working. And when you combine the state of our world and the busyness of life, and when those things happen, sometimes it becomes a little more difficult to make space for that heart that is grateful. And gratitude is not just an idea or an emotion. Gratitude is a state of being. Gratitude is generative. Gratitude opens us. That's why the scriptures say, enter into the courts. It means enter into the courts of the divine, where God, the divine, is. Enter into the courts with praise and thanksgiving, because gratitude opens you to a greater reality of being. That maybe even if it's not happening in your life right now, in your situation, you begin to be thankful that it does happen in other people's lives. It does exist. It can happen. And so it begins to attune you to the field of possibility, rather than what happens so often is our mind itself can create barriers where we can't even get out of our own way. One of my prayers is, "Help me get out of my way so that I may be the way." Amen. I believe that that's what the scriptures mean when it says that we're in the world, but not of the world. Now, it's important to say here, there's nothing wrong with being in the world. As a matter of fact, it's the gift of our life. We're meant to be in this world, to have a body, mind, emotions. All those things are good things. And as the song says, though, the world doesn't give you your ultimate beingness. The world didn't constitute your being, and the world can't take it away. So how to be in the world and not of the world is what we're dealing with when we're wanting to be more open to that presence that we feel. Call it God, call it the Holy Spirit, call it divine wisdom, divine mind, call it unconditional love, whatever you call it, you know what it is when you feel it. It just overtakes you, and you know that all is well. A lot of spiritual teachers had a lot to say about this. Albert Einstein also had a lot to say. He said, you can't solve a problem with the same consciousness that created it. We got to get out of our way. We got to get out of being entangled with the some people say with stinking thinking, or with the problem circling around it. The Buddha said, those who are free of resentment and troublesome thoughts surely find peace. And from the Christian scriptures, Romans 12:2, do not be conformed to the patterns of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So today I want to introduce you to a concept that is called the golden key. Are there any of you that are familiar with this little pamphlet that came out in, the pamphlet came out in 1931 by Emmett Fox, titled The Golden Key? I see a few hands going up. So the Golden Key, as I just said, was written by a man named Emmett Fox. Emmett Fox was born in Ireland in 1886. Interestingly, Emmett Fox was born in 1886, and that's the year that Unity was founded, in 1886. We talked about that last week. So Emmett Fox was born in Ireland. His father was a physician and a member of the Parliament. Emmett was raised Irish Catholic. He studied at a Jesuit school and went on to a Jesuit college. When he was 6 years old, his mom was sick and had a bad headache, and Emmett went over and put his hands on her head, and her headache completely went away. So from the time he was 6, his parents called him a little healer. He didn't think a lot about it, though. He enjoyed the Catholic liturgy. He enjoyed understanding about God, but he just somehow seemed to know that we're in the world and not of the world. He went to college just outside of London, and he began to discover Ralph Waldo Emerson, Meister Eckhart, Charles Fillmore, Mary Baker Eddy, some of those people, and he started reading that. And he said it's like everything within him said, yes, yes, yes. Here I am at London at the time, and I'm having these same thoughts. I'm believing these same things. And so he was able to travel to the United States. He actually moved to America. Wasn't long after that, he became a minister in the Church of Divine Science. He took a small church in New York, and within a couple of years, in the 1940s, 50s, that, or actually the early 30s through the 40s, that church would average 5,000 to 8,000 people a Sunday. It was a time they were going through the Depression, and there was just something about Emmett Fox. When he spoke, people felt something in his presence. He believed that God was love. He believed that God was accessible to all people, that God operated through us. And he's written many books. He went on to be a great teacher, author. One of his most famous books was written about the Sermon on the Mount. It's titled The Sermon on the Mount. But this little brochure came out titled The Golden Key. And in the early 40s, when he met Charles and Myrtle Fillmore and went to Unity Village, he was so moved by what he met, he actually gave this to them and said, here, will you publish it? So Unity got the rights and began to publish The Golden Key. Now, people were desperate. It was time during the Depression. A lot of things were happening, and people were desperate for help. And people's lives were being changed at the message he was teaching. And so they said, can you give it to us? And he sat down and he wrote this Golden Key. And this is how it begins. He said, I've comprised this essay into 5 pages. Had it been possible, I would have reduced it to 5 lines. It's not intended to be an instructional treatise, but a practical recipe for getting out of trouble. This is inspired teaching. intended to be taken literally. The ability to draw on this power is not a special prerogative to a mystic or a saint, as is often supposed, or even a highly trained practitioner. Whoever you are, God works through you. You are the only channel through which divine action takes place. And your treatment, meaning your prayer outcome, your adjusting your thoughts, your treatment will really be just the getting of yourself out of the way. He said beginners often get startling results the first time of trying, for it's absolutely essential to have an open mind and the willingness to try. And apart from that, you may hold any views on religion or none. For the actual method of working, like all fundamental things, is simplicity itself. And all you have to do is this. This is the golden key, he says. Stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about God instead. This is the complete rule. It is very simple. It is not easy. Stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about God instead. Now, he needed to explain some of that. That's why it took 5 pages and not just 5 lines. He bases it on a couple of scriptures. He offers these to people. One comes from Romans chapter 10, which says, some of you are probably familiar with this, whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. If you go back to the original translation, what your name always meant nature. In the Bible, a person's name would change when they had a radical change of nature. So what this is ultimately saying is whoever calls upon the nature of the divine, whoever calls upon their spiritual nature shall be made whole, shall be restored unto a state of wholeness where they're not stuck believing that something is missing or outside of what they need. He also quoted Colossians 3:2, where it says, set your mind on things above, not on earthly things. So as we head into the holiday season, next week we begin talking about the Christmas story, and we look at that metaphysically around the idea of Advent. I thought it would be a great opportunity for us to work with this tool of how to stop yourself sometime. Stop yourself when we just go galloping off, or how many of you know your mind has a mind of its own, and it will just make up stories and do all kinds of stuff. That to learn to do what all the master teachers, whether it was the Jesus, the Buddha, Lao Tzu, many different ones, they learned how to be very present in the world, but as an instrument of a presence and a power that transcended their physical being or their own know-how. They knew that they were in relationship with a presence that was active and responsive. It was a part of their greater reality of being. It was available. It was an extension of who they were. And if they could stay connected to that, we would say today, that dimension of their self, that truth about who they are, that they would be more open to higher guidance, to vision, to healing power. They would become a conduit. The Native Americans call it the hollow bone, to become the clear opening. Some call it the sacred chalice. It's known by many, many different names. The alchemist would say to become that which can transform the ordinary into the gold, into the divine. It's to learn to have the single eye, to be in the world, but not of it. So the golden key. So I've taken his little booklet and tried to condense it for you in basically what he says, 4 steps. The first one is stop thinking about the problem. Now, let's get the other stuff. But what he's not saying is ignore the problem, deny the problem, pretend it's not there, put your head in the sand, go, nah, I don't see it. He's not saying that. If you read what he's saying is, when he's saying stop thinking about it, he's meaning stop dwelling on it at a point where it's totally unproductive. And you know when that is. You know when you're just going around and around and around, and it's like the problem literally is consuming you. And so how do we get into that, to disengage from it? So the first step in and of itself, to stop thinking about the problem, really requires mindfulness, to know when we're carried away with our thoughts. We spend so much time on social media and watching different things. We just get filled with angst and all this kind of stuff. And we sometimes don't even think about the environment that's creating inside of us, the space that's taking up, and that's really what is occupying us. So this profound step of to stop thinking about it goes very deep. It requires some work and some practices. It's sort of like this. If you had a child or a grandchild who's in the first grade and they came home one day and they were just a little mess. I mean, their clothes were twisted, the hair's all messed up, they got dirt on their knees and their face, and they just come crying home. They've had a horrible day. And they walk into you and they're trying to tell you about it. You wouldn't say, "No, honey, just stop, take a deep breath. You're okay, it's all gonna be okay. Now let's go get some ice cream." Would that work? No. No. You can help them calm down a moment, but when a child has had some kind of an experience like that, they're going to need to get it out. If you've really gone through something, you need a way to just get it out and create some space. So when we say stop, number one is to recognize I'm just going manic here. I'm just really chewing on this. This is getting away with me. I got to stop. When Reverend Paulette Pipe was here for our homecoming weekend in October, she did a workshop on joy. One of the first things she did, she had a table set up with a big bowl of water, and she gave us all a little piece of paper. And she said, "Now, I want us to be able to enter into an experience of joy, but every one of you came in here with some stuff that probably wasn't joyful. And every one of you has got stuff inside." So she gave us all a little piece of paper, and she said, "I want you just to whisper in this paper everything that's bugging you right now." And as adults, that's kind of a weird thing to do. We all sort of looked at each other like, "What did she say?" And so finally we start whispering into the paper. And she would keep going, just what kind of thoughts are coming up? "This is stupid. Why am I doing this? Why am I whispering into paper? Everybody's looking at me, and what are we going to do with this paper anyway? And yeah, I'm not, So get it all out. And then she had us kind of ceremoniously drop it in that water. And she said, throughout this workshop, if you just find yourself, you're totally caught up with something, or maybe somebody said something or wore something or whatever, and you don't like it, and now you're going off in that trail, she moved it to the back and said, "Go get a piece of paper." And I was really moved as I saw people throughout the workshop, get up and go get a piece of paper and walk across the back. Maybe we should do that on Sundays, but more of it, maybe, shall we gather around the paper table? It's a very practical way. In Hawaii, I learned that a lot of the Hawaiians, they don't wear shoes in the house, but they also believe you don't take your stress in the house. You don't take your worries in the house. You don't let them occupy you. So they would stop outside, and there's a beautiful plant called a tea leaf. They're considered a very sacred plant. The Hawaiians would walk over to those tea leaves and just rub their hands, and kind of like what she did. I had a tough day, and I'm going to let it go. I had a tough day, I'm going to let it go. And when they walk in the house and take their shoes off, it reminds us that we have experiences, but they do not constitute all of our being. We have things that gnaw on us and chew on us and need our attention, and we need to be able to deal with them from the rightful place. And so to create something. Sometimes I find myself driving, and I'm noticing I'm in angst. And I'll just look out at the trees and blow and say, "Thank you for helping me regenerate." So what practice do you have for stopping? When you're going in a direction that's really not where you want to go, our greatest privilege, and I believe our greatest responsibility, is to stop ourselves, to lovingly stop ourselves, to stop thinking about the problem. And then he says, turn your thoughts to God, to a higher power, the field of infinite awareness, unlimited love. Don't let the word get you hung up. To set your mind on things above, to seek first that kingdom, that reality. So once we can empty ourselves and stop thinking about it, create some space, he's saying now you begin to dwell on the God of your being. You begin to think about, in a way that works for you, the greater reality of which you are a part. And the third step is you begin to affirm it, claim it, the activity of presence of God. He gives a lot of statements like God is life, God is my life, God is wisdom, divine guidance is always available. There's a higher power at work, and I open to that higher power. I witnessed my grandmother doing that as a child. My grandmother was Pentecostal. She was a very, very spiritual woman. She was about this tall and almost as round as she was tall. And she was as loving. She made, if there is a literal heaven, I hope she's up there making biscuits for all of you because they were the best in the world. She was a sweet, sweet woman. And she would often take care of a lot of us kids. They lived on a farm. And there were a lot of stressful things now looking back. The farmland where they lived was very sandy. It was almost like beach sand, and they had a lot of trees, and so sometimes the yard would get trees and stuff. My grandmother would make these homemade brooms out of reeds, and she'd go out and she would, what she called sweep the yard, kind of a way of raking that stuff to clear the yard. But what I saw as a child, and I later came to understand, grandmother would go out when it would kind of get chaotic. She's like, I need to go sweep the yard. And she would always sing, I know that I know that I know. Oh, I know that I know that I know. We'd hide and trying to hear, what the heck does Grandma know? Because all she was really singing was, she'd get happy. I know that I know that I know. She was Pentecostal. She'd be shouting and sweeping and kicking up the dust. I know that I know that I know. I believe, looking back, that was her way of, whatever's worrying me, whatever's got me down, I need to create a space where I can sing and remind myself of what I know to be true. I know I'm connected. I know that there's a presence and a power that loves me. I know that it's available. So we stop. We turn to our God, our higher power, which is very much a part of you. We begin to affirm the truth of what that means, that there is one power, one presence, and I am an expression of that. And that's why Jesus could say, I'll speak to this mountain and say, mountain, be moved, because there is no mountain that is bigger than the connection of which I am a part. There is no problem which cannot be met. The scriptures say, before you even ask, it's been provided. That's all scriptural in many, many different sacred texts. So our job becomes one of getting out of our own way, to stop when we're getting caught up, to shift, to turn, to look up, look out. Allow your vision not become constricted and close off, but let me open up. And I begin to affirm and claim and know the ultimate truths about me as an ultimate being. That love is a part of every life. It is every life. That goodness and guidance and abundance. And that leads us to 4. 4 is gratitude. Gratitude is so powerful because when you begin to give thanks for something that you can recognize and know is true and know is real, you're starting to make it part of your reality. Maybe you want love in your life. And so you're in a restaurant and you see a couple and they just look so in love. And you say, I'm so thankful for the love I see between them. I'm thankful that that quality of love exists between them. Because if it can exist for them, it could exist for me. I'm so thankful for healing and abundance and peace of mind. As you begin to give thanks, honest to goodness, sincere as you can be, recognize it, give thanks for it, you are attuning yourself to the possibility of that in your life. And so the golden key is stop thinking about it and shift, make a turn. And in that turn your thoughts to God, higher power, infinite field of potential. He says, instead of focusing on the problem, focus on the presence and power of God, the divine, of whatever power you believe in. And then begin to affirm that presence and the activity of God. Affirm that is with you, guiding you at work within your life. And then number 4, give thanks. Philippians 4:8 says, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if there's anything excellent or praiseworthy, think about these things. Now, again, it's not saying ignorance is bliss, pretend it's not happening. No, it's not saying that. But it's asking you to spend time, cultivate a consciousness of gratitude, of recognition, of being able to realize, yeah, I have a problem, I have an issue, I have something, but that it doesn't have all of me. It doesn't constitute the wholeness of my being. And I'm going to open up and ask for guidance. So I want to give you 2 examples of this. The first one I heard when I was living in Kansas City. This is a story many have probably heard about a man who was a 4th-generation barber. He owned a barber shop. He had inherited it from his father, and things were going well. His son was in college, and when his son came home for the holiday break, he saw his dad was like he had lost weight. He looked like he'd aged. He was distraught. He said, "Dad, what is wrong?" He said, "Well, son, a few months ago, one of those big franchises moved into town, one of those $5 haircut places." And he said, just like that, all my people are going over there, and for the life of me, I charge almost twice that for a haircut. There's no way I can do that. And it looks like that I'm going to be the generation where it stops. I can't see any way out of going business. I really can't last much longer. His son, who was a college student, had just happened to have heard a story from one of his professors about Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison, who had been influenced by some of these thinkers, believed that we are creative beings and that we have the capacity to create because we're open to a higher intelligence. Thomas Edison believed, and a part of his prayer, if you want to call it practice, was he would sit in the silence holding a rock over a trash can. The reason he did that is if he ever dozed off to sleep, he'd drop the rock and it would rumble in that trash can and wake him up. He didn't want to go to sleep. He wanted to sit in a state where he became open. He would think about a problem and then go into what he called the land of solution, the land of heaven, the land of higher power. So he would sit and go into the land of solution and ask for guidance. Well, his son had just heard that story. Well, his father was a spiritual or religious man, but he knew his father was not going to sit with a rock and meditate about what to do. But he knew he had to get his father out of the problem. And so he said, "Dad, let's go fishing." They just stopped worrying, went and fished. His son made sure he kept him engaged and talking until he just saw his dad begin to loosen up and lighten up a little bit. And as the evening then began to set in, he said, "Okay, Dad, now let's just think for a moment." He said, "I want you to pray the way you would pray. Let's ask for guidance here. And then let's just think a minute about what could we possibly do." So they had a prayer, and then they began to throw out stuff. And one idea was like, wow, that could possibly work. And so the father said he would implement it. So son goes back to school. He's gone for a few months, and when he comes back, his dad is like a bright light again. "Son, you're not going to believe it. My business is better than ever. I can't believe how it's turned around. It's never even been this strong. It is awesome." And what did they do? One idea which they acted on was to change their sign, and all it said was, "We fix $5 haircuts." We fix $5 haircuts. One idea. It is a funny story, but the truth of the matter is, usually we're one idea away from what we need to guide us. Now you see, if he was not able to stop and get out of that and open up, that idea probably never would have come. Let me tell you the second story. Richard, would you come on up? I'll invite the whole band to come up if you will. Patrick Harbala. Patrick had a wonderful career, great job, Beautiful wife. He'd been married to her for 13 years. He was very financially secure. He had great health. He had been a tennis pro in his 20s. After that, he was a martial arts instructor, very fit. And just as he was turning 40, literally on the top of the world, everything he touched turned to gold. He was writing a book, and it was to be titled, How to Manifest What You Want. At 40 years old, Patrick Harbala begins writing the book. All of a sudden, he gets sick. Just all of a sudden, something came over him where he was extremely fatigued. He'd have to be in bed sometimes for days. It got to the point he'd have to be in bed for weeks, which caused him to lose his job, which caused him to get really despondent, and his marriage of 13 years fell apart. He said, within a short period of time, I'm so on top of the world, I'm writing a book, How to Manifest What You Want. And now I'm about as low as I can be. He's turning 40, and he began to seek help. He was able to get in at the Mayo Clinic. Round and round for 3 years, they were never able to diagnose. He was a spiritual man in nature. He believed in New Thought. He was treating this with prayer, holistic treatment, diet changes, energy healing, hyperbaric oxygen. He said, I did everything and anything I could think of. But he said, it began to dawn on me that my dad had died at 42 years old from a cancer that wasn't diagnosed early enough. And now him in his 40s, he began to think, I'm probably not long for this world, but he did what he said that all during this time, I was shooting lightning bolts toward the problem, trying to get it to go away, trying to figure it out. But as I got weaker and weaker and weaker at the end of the 3 years, weeks now, he couldn't get out of bed. He said, I'm not long for this world, and if I'm dying, I'm going to use this time to understand who I am as a spiritual being at the deepest level possible. He said it wasn't I give up. It was really a saying, you know what, this is happening, I need to embrace it. And he said, so I began to ask myself, if this is, and it probably is, the end of my life, what do I want to do at the end of my life? And he began to realize that even as much as he knew to step out of the problem, that really for the past 3 years, all he had been doing was focusing on the problem, totally consumed by it. So he said, I'm just not going to do that anymore. With the rest of my life, his exact words were, I'm going to use this time to understand who I am as a spiritual being at the deepest level possible. And so he began to dwell on the truth of his being as a part of God, all being. He began to really focus on what it means to be an expression of God and the life of God. And he said he began to relax, and something unexpected happened. After a couple of days of just disciplining himself to focus on that and to really open his heart and embrace it, he noticed his energy level begin to go up. And so because his energy level was up, he's like, well, I'm going to get up and get out there and conquer the world, and then he'd be down again. So he said he went through this period of time where he'd start getting better, and then he'd rush out, and then he'd be down again, up and down. So he finally said, I'm going to completely let go of outcome. I'm going to embrace this. I really, God, with all my heart, I want to know who I am as an expression of you. What do I need to know about the truth of my being? What do I need to understand in these critical hours of my life? What do I need to receive? What do I need to know about myself? And as he began to focus on that, he got better and better and better. And the day came when he was completely healed. He said, when we're in the experience of recognizing the sacred and appreciating the sacredness of life, we open to a world of unlimited possibility. Now, he did go on to write that book, but it was not titled How to Manifest the Life You Want. It was is titled, Magic of the Soul, Applying Spiritual Principle to Daily Living. Today, he's Reverend Patrick Harbala. He's a great leader in the human potential movement. You'll find him usually on the West Coast most any Sunday in a church telling this very story. And to me, it aligns with this invitation today of whatever is going on in our life. Do you see that you could benefit by cultivating some skill around stop? Just stop, stop. I don't want to go in that direction. I don't want to fuel that fire. I don't want to add to this. I don't even want to give my energy to that. I honestly don't want to do that. And so to stop and then to make that shift. And I'm going to look up and I'm going to recognize that there's a power and a presence, and my soul has an assignment, and I want to be in tune with that. And so I want to focus on what is it? What are the qualities, the characteristics? What is it that I need to understand and express and open to? And whatever those things are, look for them and begin to give thanks in your life. My friend, that's a golden key. And maybe I'll tell you a story about how I golden key myself to Maui one day. I want to invite you to join me in a song as we anchor this time in a meditative prayer. Gratitude before me, gratitude behind me, gratitude to the left of me, gratitude to the right of me, gratitude above me, gratitude below me, gratitude within me, gratitude all around me. And I'm so grateful. 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 So I invite you to close your eyes and to take that gratitude in your heart. We give thanks for the recognition that we are miraculous beings. We have this thing that we call a mind that is now calling someone in the form of a trumpet I hear playing. We have this miraculous part of our being called a mind. And our mind has the capacity to be right here present, focused on whatever is before us. But our mind is actually an instrument that is illumined, informed, it is guided, it is made possible by a higher presence, a higher power, a higher intelligence. And as everyone on the face of the earth probably has at one time or another had an incredible idea just seemingly arrive, like where did that come from? What a great idea. Every great composer that has been able to hear literally a song and capture it and bring it from the unformed field of potential and yet hear it in their mind and bring it to page and bring it to life. People have discerned and visioned, so we recognize that our mind and our entire being is a portal, is a gateway to a higher intelligence. As we enter into this holiday season, this holy season, as it's often called, let's make a commitment to be gentle with our mind and also to be a diligent, loving teacher for our mind. That we need not suffer. We need not get stuck. We need not linger around things when there's an opportunity to stop, to take a breath, to get it all out, and then to shift and focus. And that whatever's going on before us, we metaphorically, but sometimes literally, we look up, we look out. We look beyond the present into the presence of which we are an expression. And so as we begin to shift our eyes and look out and look up and look beyond, we realize that we're in this place, we're dealing with this particular situation, and now we're becoming available to be an instrument of guidance. Let me be the way of peace. Let me have the next divine idea. Give me a step. Guide me. Show me. I open to the peace. I know that it's a part of the reality of my being, as a part of the one being. And I seal this with gratitude, with all the gratitude my heart can muster. I look at people and things, and I recall situations that just cause me to be very grateful and recognize what is possible and what can be possible and what does exist and what is available. I look at the things in my life for which I am immensely grateful, and I give thanks. And through this, I become the way, and I'm no longer in my own way. So gratitude before me, and gratitude behind me, gratitude to the left of me, and gratitude to the right of me, and gratitude above me, and gratitude below me, gratitude within me, gratitude all around me, and I'm so grateful, I'm so grateful, I'm so grateful, I'm so grateful. Would you stand with us? I'm so grateful, I'm so grateful, I'm so grateful, I'm so grateful. From the top, gratitude before me, gratitude behind me, gratitude to the left of me, gratitude to the right of me, gratitude above me, gratitude below me, gratitude within me, gratitude all around me. I'm so thankful, I'm so grateful, 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 I'm so grateful. Would you turn to one person and say, I'm truly grateful for you. I'm truly grateful for you. I'm truly grateful for you. We are truly grateful for you.